my name is Forever Garen, and I was asked during my stream what my runes and masteries and stuff are. So I'm gonna go through them real quick. And I also edited my item sets because I thought I'd share those as well. So, start with runes. There's like 4 pages that you would ever use as Garen. This is my default page. This is one I created. I did not get this off any guide. It's a mixture of armor pen and AD. It is, I believe, 380. It's 380 reds, 380 quints, and then the rest is flat armor penetration. Why this combination? Because it comes out to 10 flat damage because it rounds up, and 8 flat armor pen because it rounds up. So this is a good page because it gives good damage, and the small amount of armor pen actually does a lot. If your enemy starts a cloth armor, flat armor penetration goes really well with Garen in most matchups. If your enemy has no armor, then it also helps that too. And if your enemy has very, very low armor, like if you're against the Teemo, then the physical damage along with the armor pen really drives the nail in the coffin. So this is a really good page to have. The second page is full penetration. All penetration, armor penetration reds and quints. Why full penetration? This is a page that sucks at level 1 and 2 and 3. It's garbage. With one item, it's not that good. It makes your auto attacks very, very weak. What it does do is when you go back and buy a brutalizer, or you go back and buy a Dorn's blade and some boots and a longsword, now you come back to lane and you do so much damage because armor penetration starts working when you have attack damage. If you have equal amounts of armor pen and attack damage, that's when it really starts to hurt. But you have to have attack damage to give your abilities damage with the AD ratios on the abilities. There's no abilities that have armor penetration ratios. Those don't exist. Armor penetration is a static stat that only assists you when you have damage. And to get damage, you have to build attack damage. So full penetration is when I'm very confident in a matchup, and when I have a couple Doran's blades, and this is where you go in. I used this the other day on a rumble, and I killed him level 5 before I had my ult because he did not expect me to do as much damage as I did. It's a very, very good page if you're confident. This also works on a bunch of other champs. Whenever I play Zed, this is the page I use. It's very, very good on him too. Armor penetration has no benefit in the jungle, really. It has a little benefit in the jungle, but not much. On creeps, it doesn't do anything, so your last hits are very weak. So if you are going to use this page, be very careful. But the other thing is, if you're going to use this page, it better be in a matchup where you can start with a Doran's blade. Because if you start Doran's shield, you're going to be weak as shit until you go buy items. Just a warning. Alright. Movement speed AD. Pretty obvious. Attack damage reds, movement speed quints. Why? Why not the other way around? Because there's no movement speed reds, basically. Movement speed on Garen is ridiculous. It just goes so well with this kit, and because of the core fundamental of Garen, which is your goal is to run into that team and kill them. Super easy, right? There you go. That's why movement speed. Not much else to say. Attack damage is always good. Why not armor pen? Because, again, you'd have to start Doran's blade, and sometimes you don't need to start Doran's blade. Sometimes you're up against the Teemo. This is the page you use against Teemo. Gives you easier access to Teemo's face when you want to grind him into little bits of Yordle. And physical damage goes well with Garen's kit. There you go. That's about it. CDRAD. I've used this before. This is more of a Riven page. This is more of a Renekton page. This is more of a Zed page. Yasuo. Like, any AD that really doesn't build tank. Well, you could argue that Renekton doesn't have to build tank, but this is a good page on manaless champs that are AD. Why use it on Garen? You don't have to. You really don't. The only reason I would ever suggest it is if you want more cooldown reduction in general. Other than that, it's not good against AP matchups, obviously, for no magic resist. You could switch out these arbors for magic resist runes if you wanted to be stupid and waste a bunch of runes. But, you know, it's up to you. It's your choice. This is a bit of everything page, which I've used, and I don't know why I have it, but I made it one day, and it kind of works. It gives 4% lifesteal. gives some armor pen, it gives some damage. It's okay. I think I've only used it like once. I used it against a Jace because I wanted more sustain. That's about it. My other pages are all for other champs. Masteries. 2 pages. Here's one. This is the global Garen page. This is, if you are playing Garen, use this page into every matchup. Why? Number 1, tank matchups, you want to be tanky because you don't want to die to the enemy tank's damage. You ever fought a Shyvana at like level 11? You will die to Shyvana regardless of how fed you are because Shyvana has ridiculous scaling. You ever fought a Mundo level 11? Same reason. The only thing you can do is lessen the blow by being tanky as possible from Masteries. And some of these Masteries, Tenacious, Second Wind, Juggernaut, they make it so you don't die. So you want those. The other thing is Fleet of Foot. Why Fleet of Foot? Why movement speed quints? Same question. This makes it a flat 6% with the move speed page. That's really fast. As for the other stuff, exposed weakness is okay. It's just the extra point that couldn't really go anywhere. Could you put it into Phase Walker? Sure. Could you put it into Scout? Why? You know? But, I mean, cooldown reduction, obviously important. Although, I would say, on some pages, I'd actually do this. I would get a little bit of attack speed. Why a little bit of attack speed? Because Garen doesn't really have cooldowns that are extensive aside from his ult at rank 1 and 2. So cooldown reduction doesn't really hamper. Cooldown reduction doesn't really help, and not having cooldown reduction doesn't really hamper him. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly. Whatever. This is a good page. The only thing you need to watch out for is resistance and hardiness. You gotta be able to switch the points back and forth. Oh look, I'm facing a Jace and not a Ryze. Okay, I'm done. Oh look, I'm facing a Teemo. Okay, I'm done. It's easy as that. Other page. Half and half. Is it really half and half? No. This is an offensive Garen page. When do you use this? When you want to kill lanes super quick and snowball the game and win at like 15 minutes. Why more attack speed? Look, attack speed is good on Garen if you're going to trade with autos. If your judgment's on cooldown, what do you attack with? Autos. What do you want? Attack speed. It's just a little bit of attack speed, but it really does make sort of a difference, kind of. Trust me, I'm a doctor. You could put them both in the cooldown reduction if you wanted to. But it's got stuff like, oh look, more execute damage on your ult. Oh look, more attack damage. Oh look, more attack damage. Oh look, penetrations. Oh, by the way, this stat on Garen is awesome. Get double-edged sword all the time. It's such a good mastery. Okay. So, those are the only 2 pages. Could you make your own page? Yeah, what would I suggest? 621.9. It's 621.3. What else would you suggest? 21 in defense. Anything anywhere else. Just get the defensive stats with our OP. Even though they're nerfed, they're still OP. Alright, items. This is my Garen item set. Alright, it's called Garen. Starting items are based on the enemy matchup and your familiarity with it. Garen is 99% knowing your lane matchup and 1% your team not feeding so you can win. Does it sound like I'm conceited? Like, yeah, no kidding. I've lost so many games with ridiculous scores you wouldn't understand. I had so many kill counts in like the double digits with single digit deaths. Like very low, like 2-3 deaths and like 15 kills, and I've lost a game because my team is not fed and I am. And I just can't carry. Anyways, how do you get fed as Garen? Easy, know the matchup. So let's say I'm going against Jax. Here's what you need to know against Jax. Number 1, Garen beats the shit out of Jax. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Garen beats the fucking shit out of Jax if you know what you're doing. Why? Number 1, Counter-Strike blocks nothing that Garen does. Nothing. Decisive Strike hits through dodge. Judgment hits through dodge. Your ult hits through dodge. Also, Garen can reduce CC reduction with Courage active, and he gets free armor. Jax does not beat Garen. Jax beats Garen if Jax has 6 items. And even so, you can still dunk him if you're smart. Excuse me, my throat's a little dry. What do you start against Jax? Easy. I'm going to dunk him, so I'm going to start Dorn's Blade. What Masteries am I going to use? I'd either use ADR pen, or I'd use Flat Armor pen. Why would you use Flat Armor pen? If I think he's going to start Cloth Armor. Why would you use ADR pin when you don't really care what he starts? If you start Doran's Blade and Jack starts any of the following, you win. Cloth Armor, Doran's Shield, Doran's Blade, or Flask. Specifically Flask. Jaxes who start Flask are asking to die, and you must kill them. Anybody who starts Flask is. They are basically saying, I'm not going to win this lane, so I'm just going to stay here as long as I can before I back and get items, and try to stay even. So you punish them by killing them over and over in lane. When do you start Doran's Shield? Against ranged units, against AP units, and against lane matchups where they just use a lot of like auto attacks, like Tryndamere. Tryndamere is not a match that favors Garen. It is a match that favors Tryndamere. Doran's Shield can make it so you can trade, but still, it's a shitty matchup. Fuck Tryndamere. Cloth Armor. When do I use Cloth Armor? Against enemy AD champions that do not harass with a lot of auto attacks, like Riven, Renekton, enemy Garen. You know, if you're in a blind pick. It also gives you a lot of sustain. I'm not familiar with this matchup, and it's an AD. Cool. Cloth 5. Why? Ninja Tabby, Randu and Zoman. Bunch of other stuff, I'm sure. What else do you build out of Cloth? Oh, Thornmail. There you go. It was on the tip of my tongue. Those are the items you build with Cloth Armor. It's always good to have a Cloth Armor. And it's just for that sustain with the 5 pots. There's the yawn. Okay, first back. Now these items are individual with the exception of the Doran's Blade and the boots. So, here comes the questions. Why is Doran's Blade in your first back? Why would you buy another Doran's Blade? Are you Genja? No. I'm just smart. You want to back when you have between 800 and 1500 gold. 1500 assuming you got at least 1 kill and a lot of farm while you were out. 800 assuming you are backing early to get an advantage by going to lane again. Like backing, buying quick, running to lane. That's why boots are very important. At 800 gold, you can get a Doran's Blade, a pair of boots, and 1 potion. You can then pop Decisive Strike and start running back to lane. If you pushed out your lane, you will miss like 1 creep. You will not be behind in experience that much. You will be just barely behind. You should still hit 6 about the same time as your opponent, except if they were hitting 6 on that wave. Why would you do this? If you're starting full armor pen, this is what you want to do. You need attack damage in order to fully use that armor penetration, so buy a second Doran's Blade. 2 Doran's Blades is 16 attack damage, that's plenty in order to kill your opponent. Gives a little more sustain, Garen scales a little bit with health. Doran's Blade is the best item on Garen, period. Like, stat-wise, this is the best item on Garen. Unfortunately, it's just really, really weak. If there was like a 5,000 gold Doran's Blade, you would just buy 5 of those. Okay, next. Boots. Obviously buy them for mobility. Garen's main method of harassing the opponent is running up, smashing them in the face, and spinning. Or running up, spinning, and then smashing them in the face. Either or. To do that, you need to be in their face, and to be in their face, you need to run there. So, get boots. Now, let's say you're winning lane pretty hard, but your opponent is not tanky. Your opponent is a Riven. Your opponent's going to go back and build a couple long swords, like 5. So what are you going to do? Build tanky. First build Giant's Belt. Always build the Giant's Belt before you build the Chain Vest. Why? Because if you don't have health, stacking a lot of armor just doesn't do that much. You will still get crushed. Brutalizer. When do I buy Brutalizer? Hey, I just squashed my lane. Hey, the jungler just ganked and did nothing, and then as soon as he turned around to leave, I crushed my lane opponent, and then the jungler stuck around, and then I started crushing him, so he left. I am so dominant in my lane that nothing can stop me. Buy Brutalizer. Brutalizer is every stat that Garen dreams about. Cooldown reduction on a champ with no resources is beautiful. Armor penetration on Garen is like dipping an ice cream cone in chocolate, and attack damage is just delicious. Okay, now why is there this fucking pickaxe here? Who the fuck buys a pickaxe on Garen? I'll let you know. Just relax. Stay with me. This will come into play later. And I have built pickaxe a lot on Garen. As a first back. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. Kind of. Finished items. Why is there only 1 pair of boots here? It's Boots of Swiftness. Why isn't there Ninja Tabby or Merc Treads? Boots are 999 out of 10, out of 1,000 times. They are situational, and that one other time is when I just don't fucking care and I want to buy Boots of Swiftness because they look cool. And sometimes I really just get so frustrated with the game that I'm just like, you know what, fuck it, Boots of Swiftness. with alacrity. Now I can run so fast that I can go to the enemy base and I can touch the back of the spawn before the laser kills me. Whatever. Boots are always situational. When do you buy Boots of Swiftness is basically answered by saying, when do I not need to buy Ninja Tabby or Merc Treads? You buy Merc Treads when your opponents have a lot of CC, or you're up against an AP with CC, like Rise. Specifically Rise. Like, if you're up against a Rise and you don't buy Merc Treads, you're dumb. If you've got a Fiddle Jungle in the other team, and you're not building Merc Treads, then you're a dum-dum. That's basically it. Like, if your enemy's got, like, oh, an Ahri, but that's, like, their only main CC, fuck it, just buy Boots of Swiftness and just run around her charms. Or, go into melee range and attack her, and when she throws a charm at melee range, outrun the charm backwards. You know, Garen's pretty fast. He's a fast guy. He runs. As for enchants, you buy Alacrity unless you need Home Guard, and then if you need Home Guard, then you buy it. Furor, not that great. It kind of helps when you Decisive Strike, but since you don't attack a lot with autos, it's not really that important. You could get... what is the other enchant? Boots. How about I just do Boots? Yeah, alright, so let's look at enchants. Distortion. Could you buy a Distortion? Yeah, I mean, you could. It's not super duper important, but as somebody who plays Garen a lot, I will tell you that not, like, 4 out of 5 times, I will use Flash offensively and not defensively. I will use Flash to engage rather than run away or escape something. So Distortion could definitely come in handy. If you run Ghost on Garen because you prefer it, then Distortion's probably really, really good. And if you run Ghost on Garen, I would not run Ignite. I would also run Flash, because Flash is way more important than Ignite. Captain Boots. This is literally so niche that unless you totally want this, like, it's not worth it. Plus, it's expensive as fuck. So there you go. Ninja Tabby for when you've got a lot of AD on your team that attack with auto attacks. And you know, there you go. Don't buy these. Don't buy these. Don't buy these. You could potentially buy Boots of Mobility if you spend all of your time running around the map. But remember that they're nerfed now, and combat speed on Garen is very, very important. If it wasn't nerfed, then I would say Boots of Mobility on Garen are probably the best boots, even though it was like 15 less movement speed before the nerf. It was totally worth it. Just because the out-of-combat move speed allowed you to engage from practically anywhere just because you were super fast. Next, tank items. 4 tank items. These are the 4. Actually, there's one more. I forgot Thornmail. There we go. Guardian's Angel is down here, if you're wondering. Actually, I should put that in endgame, because you don't really buy Thornmail by itself. That'd be silly. Okay, so 4 tank items. When do you buy each of these? Sunfire Cape. I don't buy Sunfire Cape anymore because it was nerfed, and it does less damage now. It was not a nerf, it was a balance change. Let me iterate each of those for you. Let me educate you. A nerf is when something good is turned into something bad. A balance change is when something good turns into something balanced. Or something OP turns into something good, or something balanced. There are 5 levels. OP, good, okay, shit, and then really, really shit. Really, really shit being like Galio's mana costs. Holy fuck, dude. It's almost as bad as Blitzcrank's Q rank 1. It's just ridiculous. Sunfire Cape is still a good item. It's functionally exactly the same. So there's no reason not to buy it if it's functionally the same. When would you buy it? You buy it in a case where your enemy is an AD champion that is melee, and I'm counting on my fingers the points. AD champion 1, that is melee 2, that trades in melee with, you know, attack damage. Like, you would not build it against Shyvana. Why? Is she AD? Yeah, you could argue that. She'd start Dorn's Blade. She buys Blade of the Rune King. Sounds like an AD, right? Is she melee? Yeah, of course she's melee. The only thing that's not melee is her Flame Breath. Does she attack using attack damage? No. Her attack damage, her auto attacks do AD. Her bite, her double strike thing, does AD damage. However, everything else she does is AP damage, so it's just not worth it on her, against her. When would you buy it? Against Renekton? Against, like, Nasus? Would you do it against Nasus when his ult does AP and his Spirit Fire does AP? The only thing that does AD is his basic attack and his Siphoning Strike? Arguably, yes. Arguably, no. It's, at that point, I would say it's up to you. But Sunfire Cape is really good in a lot of situations. Rengar? Yeah. Riven? Yeah, for sure. Like, you just have to use your common sense. Number 2, Spirit Visage. When do you use Spirit Visage? Number 1, when you're not buying a Brutalizer, because cooldown reduction is pretty important on Garen, and 10% is a bunch of it. It's always important to have some cooldown reduction kind of early on to offset how ridiculous your ult cooldown is, rank 1 and 2. Rank 1 cooldown, with a little bit of CDR from Masteries, is about 2 minutes, 15 seconds. It's very, very long. This cuts it down. That would cut it down by like 12, 13 seconds. So brings it down to about an even 2 minutes, which coincidentally is like Renekton's ult cooldown. So if you're up against a Renekton and your ult's still on cooldown for a couple seconds, assume that he has his ult. There you go, a little tidbit. Number 2, when you're against an AP, the Cowl. I'm going to type in. Okay, Spectre's Cowl. Do you see that active on this thing? Or the passive? 15 health regen for up to 10 seconds of taking damage. What is Garen's passive? Is he gets 4% of his health when he's out of combat, and it stops being triggered when he gets hit by something. So what would offset, like, being in combat and not regenerating from your passive is something like this. That is a passive that regenerates you while you are in combat. Wow. It's like Garen is yin and Spectre's Cowl is yang, and they work together so that no matter if you are in or out of combat, you regenerate. It's brilliant, right? It's just amazing. It's like this is the anti-Teemo right here. Why Spirit Visage and not Banshee's Veil? Cooldown reduction mostly. It's a difference of 50 health. It's the same magic resist, but look at that health regen per 5 seconds. That's actually pretty significant. It's a lot of health regen. Spirit Visage got nerfed in CDR because it was just too strong of an item to have 20% CDR. Look at the other items that have 20% CDR. Morello's, it's pretty weak other than that. It doesn't have a lot of ability power. It does have the cool, what is it? The heal reduction active. Or, is it an active? I guess it would be a passive. And then you've got the Talisman, which is 20%. You've got Grail, which is basically a glorified chalice, so yeah, it kind of needed something to make it more worthwhile. And that also doesn't have a lot of ability power to it. So, it got nerfed, but it's still really, really good, and I would suggest getting Spirit Visage as your primary AP item, or magic resistance item. Alright, Warmogs. When to get Warmogs? I'm against I'm really fed, and I'm against a mixed team of AD and AP, and I don't know what to get. Hallelujah. There is this 1,000 health item. And not only that, gives you a mini Mundo passive, and also gives you a shit ton of health. And your health also gives you a regeneration from your passive. So, this gives you 4% regeneration out of combat. 4% of 1,000. In addition to whatever your standard health is. Garen has a good amount of health. Usually I have at least 3,000, so 3,000 health. What's 4% of 3,000? It's like 12 health per second. Times 5. I don't know. It's really good. I'm not doing math right now. Randuins. When do I buy Randuins? Number 1. I just dumpstered lane so hard that I didn't have time to buy a Sunfire. You're not in lane, you don't need Sunfire, buy Randuins. If you already have a Sunfire, cool, keep it. But if you don't have Sunfire, and you have money for armor, get Randuin's Omen. Randuin's Omen is the best tank item in the game. Why? Statistically speaking, it has the most armor of a non-armor only item. 50 armor. That's Guardian Angel. The 100 armor. That's Thornmail, though. This is 70 armor. I believe, what is Frozen Hearts? Frozen Heart is 95 armor, but I mean that's got no health on it. So like, it's not an. I would consider that an armor only item, tank specifically, because CDR isn't necessarily a tank stat. Iceborne has a lot of armor. is 70, but again, that's the only tank stat on it. You could argue cooldown reduction is a tank stat, but still, I don't think it is. Because cooldown isn't for tanks, it's for, abilities. Sometimes abilities make you tanky, but I don't think so. So it has the most armor of any tank-specific item in the game. It has a lot of health. In terms of health items, I think it's the second best next to, well, Frozen Mallet doesn't have any armor, that's the other thing. Next to Warmogs and Frozen Mallet. How much does Rylai's have? Yeah, 500, so it's a good deal. Like, idealistically speaking, this is the best item. Not only that, it's the best tank item in the game because it promotes you buying other tank items. It's a tank item that becomes more useful when you have tank items because of the unique active. That is what makes it the best. This is not just a tank item. This is a tank item modifier. It takes that Sunfire and that Guardian Angel and that Spirit Visage and makes them something more. It makes them a long, long slow. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. You can get like easily get like a 3-second slow if you're full tank. I mean, just adding Thornmail alone, I think, adds half a second, so there you go. So those are your default tank items. You can also buy Guardian Angel, but that's a late game item. So next, now we start talking about the offensive aspects of Garen. You obviously have some tank. If you bought all these tank items, you still have room for one offensive item, or you could buy Guardian Angel and have no offensive items, which a lot of people tend to do on Garen, which I think is dumb. I think Garen with no offensive items is useless. He's an ult, and then he's a meat shield that doesn't do a whole lot. So, I want to do something with my life. I want to kill shit. I want to make people die, and glory for the Massey and stuff. So, I bought this Brutalizer thing, because it gives cooldown reduction and armor pen and attack damage, and it's like such a perfect item for me. What does that build into? It builds into a good item, and an okay item. When do I buy Youmuu's Ghostblade? I'm dumpstering my lane, it's a Jax, or a Riven, or something that doesn't build armor. I build a Ghostblade. Now, all of a sudden, I have 20 armor pen. That means I'm basically hitting for true damage, because my enemy Riven isn't building armor. Because, where the fuck does she care about armor? She's Riven, she just wants to do damage. She's got a one-track mind. Or it's Jax, he built Ninja Tabby, but he's not going to build a Randuin's because he doesn't even have a Blade of the Rune King yet. So I buy a cheap item that does a lot of damage to targets without armor, Youmuu's Ghostblade. Also gives me an active that lets them not run away from me. Because when I want to kill something, I don't want anything, especially distance, to get in my way. So I use the Ghostblade active, catch up to them. I use it while I'm spinning, because I'm spinning through minions. And the 20% slow that happens when you spin through minions now seems like it's not there. And now I gotta kill. And I snowball my own lead with the active from Ghostblade. The 15% crit strike chance is good. The 30 attack damage is not a lot, but it's good. It's not that better than Brutalizer, you can see, but it's still good. It's really about that extra 10 armor penetration and the active. Why does Black Cleaver suck so much? Good question. If your opponent has no armor, Black Cleaver is dead weight. It is more expensive for a less efficient item. Why? But, like, look, it's got more attack damage, and it gives health, and it's got a percent shred for those tanks. Last time I checked, Garen doesn't kill tanks. He kills everybody else and lets the tanks run away. You know that saying that he has, like, you don't, the best way to win a battle is to cut down the man beside the whoever? Garen, 2014. Black Cleaver doesn't do that. Black Cleaver cuts down tanks. You don't kill tanks. Tanks aren't meant to be killed. Tanks are meant to protect the carries. Garen is not really a tank, he's more of a fighter. He's really, you build him tanky enough that he can survive a punishment, get to the back line, kill all the squishies, and then watch as the tank runs away when you take their whole base. You don't need to ace somebody, you just have to make them so afraid that they won't counter-engage. Now, if your enemy team has two tanks, like a jungle and a top, and one of them is doing a lot of damage, like a Shyvana, then Black Cleaver comes in handy. Why? Because it makes it more accessible to your AD carry to kill that tank as well as yourself. So, then it's pretty good. I'm going to ignore that message for now. Alright. So, most cases Ghostblade. Jesus, let's hear. Endgame. You notice there's a couple items that you might not expect to see on Garen. And I'm not talking about Infinity Edge. I'm talking about Last Whisper and Trinity Force. When do I buy these items? First, let's talk about the easy stuff. We'll get to those. Thornmail. When do I buy Thornmail? When you need more armor. When there's not enough armor in the world and you need more armor. When it's more cost efficient to buy a cheap only armor item with a sweet passive, very sweet passive, than to buy a Brutalizer into a Ghost Blade or a Black Cleaver. When you don't have to do more damage, you just need the enemy to do less damage. That's when you get a Thornmail. Guardian Angel, when do I get that? When I want to stop dying, and and I'm a target now by Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel makes you less of a target, makes you harder to peel, because if people are looking at you, the guy with the Guardian Angel who won't die even if you kill him, who are they going to ignore? Your carries, so they're going to focus on your carries. So while that's happening and your carries are dying, you kill theirs. Eye for an eye, right? Fuck them. Infinity Edge, why do you buy this on Garen? Because he crits it when he spins. And this is the best crit item in the game. That's why it's the most expensive. It's like 1 and 1 is 2, right? Now let's talk about Trinity Force. First of all, as a preface, Trinity Force is a good item, regardless of what you or anybody else says. Trinity Force is possibly the best item in the game, because it works well with more champions than any other item. Okay, now that that's done, let's talk about why. How many dead stats are there on this for Garen? 2. 30 ability power, not that much. That's like an amp tone. That's a little more than an amp tone. And 200 mana. That is literally just a mana crystal. So that's 835 gold of dead stats. Once you combine them to make a Sheen, then it starts to become useful. That Spellblade is good, especially because the only thing other than spinning that you do is a single auto attack, which is already empowered. And since it can crit on top of that, which makes that crit come in handy, now you have a crit auto attack that also does 200% of your base damage. Like, it's almost as if it was built for Garen, because it empowers that one auto attack that you do and makes it super duper strong. What else does it give? Attack damage. That sounds good. Attack speed. I mean, it's not as dead as you think. I gotta kill towers and stuff sometimes, right? Other than that, it's really not that useful. Critical strike chance. Hey, I heard Garen crits when he spins. Yeah, he does. Movement speed. Hey, I heard Garen has to run into people's faces to do damage. It sounds good to me. And it gives the most movement speed aside from Zephyr, which I don't play with Garen because that is a very, very, very niche item for Tryndamere only. And AD carries when they don't like boots. And health. Hey, I heard Garen likes health. I heard he scales off it a little bit. Now, Rage. Why is Rage good? You know when you're chasing somebody through minions and they get away because you get slowed when you spin through minions? Now, with Rage, you get a flat movement speed boost, so that kind of negates it. It's not perfectly negated, it's still a bit of a slow, but it helps a lot. Plus, if you spin through like one minion, then you get a little bit of a speed boost, and you can even get in front of people that way. Pretty neat, huh? Yeah, I thought so. So Trinity Force is good. When would I get a Trinity Force? When I have a lot of gold and I'm fed and I need to kill carries. That's when you get Trinity Force. Last Whisper, when do I get this? Hey, remember those tanks that you were going to kill but you didn't because they have so much armor? Fuck this. Get this. Why? Cheaper. More effective. Gives good attack damage and gives 35% armor pen. Actually, it's not even 35% armor pen. It's 35% ignore armor, which is different than armor pen in that it is not a stat. It is just a passive. Hard to explain. Last Whisper is very good, but it doesn't complement itself. You must complement it with something like this. Not this. That only gives a little attack damage. This, a lot of attack damage. So if you're going to build Last Whisper, have an Infinity Edge. Those two work together. Trinity Force Last Whisper is okay, but not that great. Trinity Force and Infinity Edge work very well together, but they're dumb expensive, so you better be fed if you have that combo. But there you go. And now these matchup specific things that have you confused. Okay, first of all, the most obvious, Maw. When do I buy a Maw? I'm fighting a lot of APs and I ran out of AP items. Or magic resist items, rather. What do I buy? So I already got Spear Visage and Banshees and Guardian's Angel. Hey look, here's a fourth one that also gives you damage, and more damage when you're low. And it gives shield. So it's effectively like health bonus too. 400 health to be exact. That's as much as a Spirit Visage. It's really good. Alright, now let's go to the second less obvious one, Atma's Impaler. When do I buy Atma's Impaler? Oh wait, I don't, because it's a stupid item. Look, dum-dum. This is a good item. If you buy Infinity Edge, and then you buy an Atma's, that's 40% crit rate, then it's more armor. That's good. Then you buy, like, this thing right here, Warmogs. Then you buy this thing, Randuins. Then you buy this thing, Spear Visage, or Banshees, or Sunfire, anything else with health. Then it's worth, at that point, plus your health that you have normally for being Garen, it's worth a BF Sword plus. A BF Sword plus is effectively, it's just so much better. But by itself it sucks. So you would buy it as like a 4th or 5th item. But it's totally worth it. It's very, very cheap too. Alright, now the big ones. Hydra and Blade. Who builds Hydra on Garen? Obviously this noob. And I do. I build it into matchups where I think I can take somebody from full health to 0. Almost. I don't have Ignite, so I need a little more damage. What if I get a Hydra? Now, when I auto-attack, I can kill minions even faster. So there's this huge wave of minions, and I'm just crushing like a Jax or a Riven or a Renekton. I'm just spinning. While I'm spinning, I use the active, because you can do that. It immobilizes you for a second, but you can do that. Now that little extra damage, now that's a thing. So it's like 1 extra auto attack, and then I dunk, and now I got a kill. It's for that little extra damage. It also gives Garen more sustain in combat. So if you're doing a lot of trading, Hydra is actually a very good item. My throat's really raw. Alright. Last item. Blade. When do I buy Blade? I've got this carry, like a Caitlyn, and I just cannot catch this Caitlyn. She's got traps everywhere, people peel for her, I flash on top of her and she just nets away, or flashes away. How do I catch this Caitlyn? It's impossible. I bought a Blade of the Rune King. Now what does that do? Now I'm in range of Caitlyn, and when she's at full speed, I sap her attack, or movement speed, and then I just run straight at her, and I'm so fast that she can't stop me, and then I just kill her. Blade's active is what makes Blade a good item. Otherwise, if you look at this item, its stats suck. Let's face it, 15% lifesteal on a 3,200 gold item sucks. Do you know how much lifesteal that, like, Bloodthirster has? It starts slow, but it adds up quickly. Look at Hydra. Hydra's 12%, but it also has health regen, and an active that can also lifesteal AoE. Like, this item is not that good. It also doesn't make your attacks do a whole lot of damage, although it does give you more attacks per second because of the attack speed. It's literally just about the active. It does a little more damage. Same way you kind of use the Zed, like on Zed. You know, you use it to get that burst damage, so it does double damage when you Mark of Death somebody. You can kind of use it on Garen as an opener to close the distance, do a bunch of damage, and it's that little extra gap between fatal and non-fatal. So Blade is a decent item. Do not get both of these. Okay? Do not get both of these. You may get one. You do not need lifesteal. If you get Hydra, Last Whisper works very well with it. If you get Blade, Trinity Force works very well with it. Why? Additional movement speed, obviously. But, yeah, these don't work very well with crit items. They work very well on their own. So, get this, get a Trinity Force, go tank. Get Hydra, get Last Whisper, go tank. Something like that. Alright, that's the gist of Garen's items. If you have critiques or comments, please make them. These are I know there's a lot of questions and a lot of critiques. I know people are going to be like, you're a noob and your build sucks. Look, I've tested these. I literally spent like a whole day in normals just trying crazy shit to see if it works. I've tried Sword of the Divine Garen too. It blows. But, anyways, have an open mind. Try them yourself. I encourage you. Garen is a champion that could use all the help he can get, and crazy new builds are what will do it. So, there you go. Thank you for watching. Please support my stream if you, that's what I like to do. And, yeah. Thank you. Goodbye. Demacia.